Hi, everybody. My name is Greg Katz, and welcome to We Are SC's Inside the Trojans Huddle, where we tell it like it is. Friends, Inside the Trojans Huddle is a game-like panel discussion with We Are SC columnists, staff writers, and editorial board. We first start off with the pregame show, where we introduce our panel members for this edition of Inside the Trojans Huddle, and then we give you the latest USC football news. First, let's meet this week's panelists. Marc Kulkin, We Are SC columnist who writes the Monday Morass, Yay or Nay, and Sunday Takeaways, in addition to regular season football and basketball practice reports. Chris Arledge, former William Jewell College defensive back, team captain, and We Are SC columnist who writes the popular column Musings with Arledge. Kevin Bruce, former all-conference linebacker and team captain for the 1975 USC Trojans. We Are SC columnist who writes defensively and offensively speaking after every USC game. And Greg Katz, that's me, your host and moderator of Inside the Trojans Huddle, and a weekly We Are SC columnist who writes the obvious and not so obvious and IMHO Sunday. Well, before we kick off this edition of Inside the Trojans Huddle, here is the latest USC football news as of today's Monday taping. On Monday afternoon, the Trojans received a commitment from four-star corner Braxton Myers, 6'1", 188 from Coppell High in Coppell, Texas. I guess they pronounce it Coppell. Myers is expected to be, according to We Are SC's Scott Schrader, part of a huge June 16th through 19th recruiting weekend on campus. On Sunday night, the Trojans got a transfer portal commit from former Washington Huskies defensive back Jacoby Covington. Covington, 6'1", 198 pounds, was originally a four-star prospect in the class of 2020 out of Suero High in Scottsdale, Arizona. And 2021 Bolitnikoff Award winner, wide receiver Jordan Addison, visited the Trojans this weekend. Addison visited Texas the week before his USC visit. And according to We Are SC's recruiting analyst, Scott Schrader is expected to visit Alabama and one other school before making a decision. And Butler Community College offensive lineman Cooper Lovelace announced last week that he will be enrolling at USC. Lovelace, 6'5", 325 pounds, will have 2 remaining years of eligibility. And also last week, the Trojans added another transfer in former Wyoming defensive end Solomon Byrd. Byrd is 6'4", 250 pounder from local Palmdale, California, has 2 years of eligibility remaining. Byrd entered the transfer portal in mid-March and had originally committed to Georgia Tech in late April. And the NCAA's Division I Board of Directors published new guidelines last week to clarify that boosters, including recently created companies designed to provide athletes at a particular school with endorsement deals, should not have any contact with prospective college athletes, their family members, or their representatives. And a quick recruiting note, if you missed it from early last week, Trojans 2024 quarterback recruit Dylan Riola committed to Ohio State. And finally, friends, We Are SC's Inside the Trojans Huddle greatly appreciates your viewer and listenership. We appreciate and encourage those of you watching on sites like YouTube. Click on the red subscriber button and the like buttons. It's greatly appreciated, and it is free. All right, let's get it on. First quarter, eliminating divisional play. Well, this is an interesting topic, panel. There's discussion that the Pac-12 may eliminate the current North-South Division model in 2023 and go to a new schedule model. In the 14-team ACC, there's been discussion for a 3-5-5 schedule model in which league teams would play 3 permanent opponents, then rotate through the rest of the conference over a 2-year period, 5 1 year and 5 the next. So let's do the kickoff here. Panel, would you be in favor of seeing the Trojans play a similar schedule like the ACC and eliminate the current Pac-12 North-South Division play? And in a divisionless Pac-12 schedule, who would you like to see as USC's 3 or 4 permanent schedule opponents, as we traditionally do here on Inside the Trojans Huddle? We lead off with Marc Kulkin. Your thoughts, please.
Absolutely. I just wish we didn't have to wait till 2023. Scrap the divisions. I think the obvious choice is USC's 3 permanents are the 3 California schools. You're going to play Stanford, Cal, and UCLA. And you know, as far as the next 5, that's great. It also gives you a chance for an extra out-of-conference game. So I know we're going to talk about that later on in the show. I think the best part about this whole thing is it actually would, and I wrote about this in my Monday Morass, is USC could actually play UCLA twice in a season if things shook out the right way at the end of the year to determine a conference champion, because you're going to go with the best records. So, you get rid of those divisions. You don't have to worry about playing a 5-3 team from the North, which has kind of been the case lately. And this will definitely help the strength of schedule. So I can't see any negatives with it whatsoever.
Well, I'll tell you what, if anyone's going to see negatives, it's going to be Chris. So, you're really looking like Superman today. I don't know. If I put a pair of glasses on you, you're Clark Kent without a doubt, but be that as it may, I digress. Chris, good idea, bad idea. What do you think, buddy?
Well, first of all, I'm a little bit surprised when you said if anybody can see the negative, I thought it was at least 50-50. You were talking about Kevin. I mean, he is every bit as much as I am.
No question about that. No question about that.
Okay. So yeah. Okay. I'll focus in on the negative since that's what the people want. That's not going to solve the problem with the Pac-12. It's going to continue to fall farther and farther behind the two conferences and make all the money. So is that something that could be done? I guess. Look, most conferences, they play 8 conference games so they can add one more absolute nobody in the preseason. And that's what USC will do too. They're not going to replace a conference foe with Ohio State or Florida. That's not what's going to happen. So I honestly don't care. What I would like to do, though, if we go that route, I would like to make it where it's the 4 California schools in our pod. That makes sense geographically. It makes sense in terms of history. It also means that Oregon gets less opportunity to come down to play in Southern California, which I know will be something that they hate because they want to come down here for recruiting reasons. So if we can screw them over in the process of doing it, then I'm all in favor. But I don't care one way or the other.
Well, I would have been disappointed in you, Chris, if you said, I don't care, because we always know that when push comes to shove, you say, I don't care. But I bet you Kevin Bruce does care, right, Kevin?
He doesn't care either. I'll tell you right now, Kevin doesn't care. Go ahead, Kevin.
Wait, what are you, a ventriloquist? Kevin,
I know Kevin. I know he doesn't care about this. Go ahead.
All right. First of all, let's welcome Kevin back. He's been on assignment. So, Kevin, tell me exactly what your thoughts are. You were in a conference where they weren't in divisional play back when you played. So what are your thoughts about going back to the future, so to speak?
Yeah, look, I'm looking forward to something that Pac-12's got to go play football. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't give a crap who they put on the schedule.
That's an I don't care. That's it. Kevin, is that an I don't care? It sounds like an I don't care.
Yeah,
all right, all those in favor that it's an I don't care, raise your hand.
If it's an I don't care, I'll tell you I don't care. What I'm saying is what I want to see is some football coming out of the Pac-12 that's worth watching, and however it gets scheduled is, I'm ambivalent to some extent. I'm not ambivalent to ruining the, more so than has already been ruined, the various rivalries and really good schedules that have happened, over the decades, that we don't see that so much anymore. Oregon coming to Southern California, go home, get out of here, go to Eugene, stay away. Good gracious. I mean, frankly, they got to bail these guys out of jail so they can have practice on Monday, and they can't read and write. Other than that, they got a beautiful thing going on. Stay out, go away. Let some real football teams play some real football in the Pac-12. I would like to see, some respect given to as we go from north to south, some of the Washingtons. Let's get to the Stanfords. Let's get UCLA. I don't want to play UCLA twice. Just beat the crap out of them once is good enough for me. I'm good on that. I don't need to see them twice. I mean, just do it again, whatever. Just the whole thing is just an attempt to try to fix the wrong problem. The right problem to fix is competitive football in the Pac-12. Boom, full stop. There it is, guys. And the best thing that can happen to the Pac-12 is a dominant USC.
All right. Well, I'm going to take the stance that I have. I think some of the points were good. I take exception to a couple of them. First of all, I was not real thrilled when they went to North South, but then there's so many teams in the conference that I think you would lose hope and interest if you have just 1 through 12. I too agree with Kevin. I wouldn't want to see SC play UCLA twice, especially for a championship game. I mean, it's kind of like been there, done that, so to speak. We've already played them once. Even if we lost to them, I would go, I don't care. You know what? Beat them the first time. You don't have to worry about that type of stuff. As far as the getting an extra conference game in, I'm all for it if we're playing in the days of Kevin Bruce, when SC would line up against Oklahoma or Arkansas. Speaking of Arkansas, those of you that are watching on YouTube, behind Kevin is a black and white photograph. You can't kind of see Kevin. Actually, it's a good behind picture of him. Yeah, there you go. Kevin moves. That number 50 is our Kevin Bruce. And Kevin, of course, tested me on who is that they're playing. And so they say every blind squirrel finds an acorn once in a while. And I said, that's Arkansas. And I was correct. I didn't get any prize for that, but just the self-fulfillment. And
the opportunity to brag on YouTube, apparently.
Well, Chris, I don't know. What are you doing? You're hiding again on the video. We only see the C there. What are you in the phone booth changing into your Superman outfit or what?
I didn't know. I'm doing this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Nobody's going to want to see that on the internet, Kevin. Greg, I have new equipment and I'm not sure how it works. So if I disappear, that's why. I mean, last week I dropped off completely. This time I'm at least here so I can hear and speak.
Well, out of the kindness of my heart, even though a contributor to the YouTube comments was quite bashing me for allowing the question that Mark pays you to so that he can be on the, but let's say.
Wait, whoa. It wasn't pays Chris. I thought it was pays the show.
Well, you know what? Okay. You know what? This is very good. We're going to save this to the last panel question.
Right, at least.
And we're going to get it. We're going to get this thing right.
If I make it through to the end, I can't promise that.
All right. Hey, guys, I'm the captain here. Time out. We are talking football now. Come on. This is all silly shit. Excuse my language.
No, we're on cable. That's permissible.
Okay, great. Good to know. Can we please talk about football? Thank you.
Yes, we can talk about football. And I think what we'll do is we'll go into the second quarter. NIL adjustments. The NCAA's Division I Board of Directors.
Oh, let's talk about football. So we end up with NIL. Okay, great.
Well, if you had been coming through this era, Kevin, I know you would have said, I don't play unless it's 500,000 NIL. That's where we'll begin the process. And don't tell me you wouldn't do that.
Is that per game or what?
Well, there you go. That answered that. So let me again repeat for those that we kind of got cut off there. The NCAA's Division I Board of Directors published new guidelines last week to clarify that boosters, including recently created companies designed to provide athletes at a particular school with endorsement deals, should not have any contact with prospective college athletes, their families, or their representatives. So here's your question. Do you think that past deals across college football landscape should be investigated? And does this new NIL booster interpretation concern you regarding the Trojans? And appropriately, let's go with Kevin Bruce to start us off.
No, I mean, look, as long as the rules, which there weren't any to speak of, were followed, then there's nothing to pursue. I mean, they and everybody else signed up to a Wild West show, which was a show me the money situation. And look, we're as good as anybody else when it comes to show me the money. So too bad. If the NC2A wants to do something else, see you in court. See you in court. And good luck with that, because you're going to have players lined up on that one. And there's going to be a lot of players, let alone others that are going to be pretty keen about the big time dollars that are in dispute.
Mark, your thoughts on this? I know you wrote about some of it.
Be honest with you, I'm still trying to understand what they're trying to recreate that they've already created. How are you going to go backwards with this? Telling them they can't be in contact with the people who are providing the funds.
Yeah.
I honestly, how do you go backwards?
Yeah.
Are you going to ask these young men to go testify? This is what I got. Okay. So now what? What's the next step?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, look, the NIL rules were followed. I mean, if the NC2A changed their mind, well, good for them. They do that kind of silly stuff all the time. Too bad. The rules were followed. Guys got paid. Get over it. I'm glad they got paid. I
Look,
wish I could have gotten paid. Screw it.
They have to put some sort of barriers in place, right? As Kevin said, right now it's kind of a wild west.
No, they don't have to put barriers in place. Honestly, they need to follow the rules.
Well, Kevin, NIL, in my opinion, it wasn't put in place to be a signing bonus out of high school, and that's what it's turned into. And that's
it wasn't put in place at all. The NCAA is an unlawful anti-competitive enterprise, and the court simply have started striking down their deals. Nothing was put in place. Look, when it comes to this new interpretation, it's fake. It's pretend. It's not even real.
Exactly right.
First of all, the rule does not say that the boosters aren't allowed to contact athletes or their families. It talks about prospective students, meaning while they're being recruited. But once they sign, as I understand, the rule doesn't stop people from contacting them and signing them up at all. That's number one. Number two, if you look at what the NCAA said afterward, they said, well, this doesn't have anything to do with the eligibility of the student athletes. Okay.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So what you're saying is that boosters shouldn't contact the athletes, but if they do, and the athletes do a deal, the athlete still is eligible. Okay,
it's like Kamala Harris word salad. It makes no sense.
It's another way.
Kamala Harris word
salad.
That was
going to work.
Mark, that's a good. That was a good one.
What is this? We're turning into Meet the Press? What do I mean?
It just
State of the Union
concept makes no sense.
Well, look, it might make sense to say that if you're not yet enrolled at a school, then people shouldn't be throwing money at you and asking you to come to the school on that basis. That's what people who are freaked out about this, what they tend to be freaked out about. What I'm saying is the NCAA is not going to do anything about it. If the players are still eligible, then the rule doesn't have any teeth. And by the way, it has to have no teeth, because if they in fact found somebody ineligible, and if that person then sued the NCAA, which they would do, absolutely, all you would do is drop in front of the federal district court judge the Supreme Court opinion that essentially said the NCAA is an unlawful monopoly, and they would fold. It doesn't mean anything. Nothing's going to mean anything unless you make student athletes employees and you have a collective bargaining agreement, right, or if you have legislation that actually sets rules. Congress could do whatever they want with this and they could get away with it, but Congress doesn't seem interested in jumping in and helping the NCAA. So this new rule, it's meaningless.
It's a nothing burger, guys. It truly, honest to goodness, it is a nothing burger. And the NC2A has no juice and no authority to enforce a dang thing. Sorry, nice try, guys. Matter of fact, bring it on. If I was on the other side of that deal, oh my gosh, I would love it. I would love it.
Well, I'll just say this. NIL now stands for now it's legal. And I don't know how you put it back into the box and try to go, and by the way, I think the whole thing is screwed up. I don't think we can go back in time. Wherever we're headed, you got me, but I kind of yearn for the days a little bit when guys went to college and the school paid for it. And I know that there's a lot of things that go into it. And, where's my take on this? I'm playing for you. This isn't the NFL. And yes, players have been taking money under the table for, I don't know how long, forever and a day, but I don't know. I guess somebody wrote on YouTube that I lived prior to 1980. And something, my feeling is, why create rules unless you're going to enforce them? And if you're not going to enforce the rules you have, then don't have rules.
Well,
It's ridiculous.
respectfully, the NC2A can make all the dang rules they want. They can't enforce that, which they have no authority to enforce. And if they want to, try it, go for it, because they're going to be slammed hard by players who have been paid a lot of money or need to be paid, want to be paid a lot of money that's been now restrained from them.
Well, this is a great conversation we can have in the future, because I think some of us, we all see it from different directions. Now that was a weak bell. That was much better. It's halftime, and here's your question, panel. The NCAA Football Oversight Committee has recommended conferences no longer be required to have divisions to hold conference championship games. If division play is eliminated, how would you decide who would be in the Pac-12 title game, or should there even be a Pac-12 championship game? Chris, what do you think?
If you don't have divisions, I don't know why you'd have a conference championship game. The whole point of the conference championship game was because not everybody played each other. And so that was the easiest way to determine who's actually the conference champion. So if you're not going to have divisions, then I don't see a point. You might as well just have the team with the best record be the conference winner. And the only reason they won't do that is because it makes money to play the extra game. So
There you go.
but there's no reason on the field. I mean, if USC goes 9-0 in conference play, do they really have to play somebody with 2 losses that they probably beat earlier in the year? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I think that is really food for thought. Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah. Look, a champion, if a team, USC, goes 9-0, to Chris's point, then, or any team for that matter, goes 9-0, undefeated and what have you. It's when you get into the 8-1s and those, it's how you make a determination of a championship, because the championship team is the one that's going to represent the Power Five, right? Which we're still Pac-12 is still part of, at least for now, right? Don't hold your breath on that. Too dang long. And so, how you determine that is of some interest. A football game is always a great way to solve those kinds of things, but an additional game, playing somebody twice is stupid. Honestly, I got to tell you. I mean, if you don't think that's true, what Utah did last year was kind of interesting. I just the whole underpinnings of the college football traditions have been pulled out from under the entire construct. It's such that the bowl games don't matter with respect to how their old connectivity. The Rose Bowl is a great bowl game, still the most watched, but it's not the Rose Bowl as it used to be, right? It doesn't dictate the same thing. Those are the types of traditions. Obviously, I have a point of view on that. Those are the types of traditions that are lost, gone forever. So as far as I'm concerned, pay the NIL, get other conference things going on, do a round robin, bring in 16 teams. I honestly, to Chris's point, minutes ago, I don't care. Let's just go play some football. And there it is. Don't care.
Mark, do you care?
If we're going round robin and you're 9-0, yeah, you don't need to play the extra game. The conference championship game was created for money, period. It's not a Pac-12 thing. This was a SEC thing. The conference championship game was created strictly for revenue, period.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, let's be clear. Revenue is NC2A revenue, which takes me right back to my harping on the NIL situation. That is NC2A money. That is, and it goes to the universities. None of it goes to the players. Not a dang dime.
right.
Do
So
you think it should go to the players?
Given today's environment, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Pay them. This is, look, the NFL, USFL, NC2A. I'd rather watch the NC2A than, frankly, NFL or the USFL. I think it's a better product.
I'll tell you, I still go back to the divisions. I think if you have a championship game, it's a division. I think if you look at almost all sports where they have divisions, teams play each other a second time, a third time. They play during the regular season. So I don't have a problem with that. I actually do see the championship games as an elimination process, as a playoff before the playoffs. So I might feel differently if they expand to 12 teams for a college football playoff. If they
Well, that's the direction it's going. So that's really, it's kind of like, we can answer the question how we're playing the schedule now, but I think we'll all agree that the playoffs are going to be expanding when the TV leagues kind of form themselves. I mean, you have the Alliance, which is the Pac-12, the Big Ten, and the ACC. They're going to be one TV league. You're going to have the Big 12 and the SEC, and maybe another conference join them to be another TV league. And that's really what it's going to, that's when we should have this discussion, because then Nick Saban brought up parity. This is, I think, what he was talking about. You're going to have 64 power teams and everybody else. So yeah, the conference championship game is going to it's going to be meaningless regardless.
All right. Well, I think this is going to be something that's going to be ongoing. And before we begin our second half, a reminder that you're watching or listening to ERC.com's Inside the Trojans Huddle. This week's WeRSC panelists include Marc Kulkin, Chris Arledge, Kevin Bruce, and I'm Greg Katz. We also encourage you to check out WeRSC.com, part of the On3 network. Become a subscriber to the best coverage of USC football and Trojans athletics. And as a bonus for the curious, WeRSC is currently offering a WeRSC 7-day free trial, which includes monthly or yearly payment options to view our exclusive On3 content. That includes breaking stories and analysis and data for USC football, basketball, and the balance of USC athletics. All right, it's second half kickoff time, and we start off with this. Panel, if the Trojans could add another non-conference game to their schedule in 2022, who would you like to see the Trojans play and why, and where would you like to see the game played? Mark, you're up.
Oh, there's so many good answers for this one. So
Yeah.
It's staring us all in the face. Oklahoma in Norman. Thread.
I take that as a buzzer.
I don't think so.
I don't think so, Commodore.
No.
All right, Mark, go ahead. You want to finish up your comment?
No, look, first of all, the buildup for it would be incredible. To have USC walk into that type of animosity, I think would be great for the team, for the fans that travel. Why not? Kevin, you could be all over the place, but that is a made for TV event waiting to happen. Lincoln Riley coming back to the place that he basically kicked to the curb.
My point, my understanding of the question is on an ongoing basis, not just a one-off game, right? So
No, I strictly put the question is
In 2022,
you had one game, not necessarily a series, but one game. What would you like?
you could add a non-conference game to their schedule in 2022. Who would
why play it in
and why?
Play it in the Coliseum. They'll travel.
Okay, great. Okay, I answered the question. I'm sorry.
No, there's nothing to be sorry about on Inside the Trojans Huddle. We just
No, there's plenty to be sorry about.
you may feel differently after Chris is next up. So, Chris, your thoughts on it?
What does that mean? No, look, obviously the Oklahoma choice this year would be a great choice just because of how upset Sooners fans are. And I have a message for Sooners fans soon, so I'm not going to pick on them right now. But I'll choose someone else. I'd like to play Michigan just because I miss the old USC Michigan games. I love the uniforms. I love the bands. So I'd play Michigan, and I'd play them in Rome just because I want to go to Italy. It has nothing to do with football. There's absolutely no reason to play that game anywhere other than the big house or the Coliseum. But that's where I'd put it, just so I have an excuse to take that trip.
And get sick again.
Maybe, but that's okay.
All right, so Kevin, let me ask you a question. Now, you're a player, and you played in many places that you thought was probably a lot of fun and very intense. At Notre Dame, obviously. But if you could pick a game to play just for 2022, a non-conference game, who would you like to play and where would you like the game to be played at?
I'd love to play Alabama. Sorry, guys. And we're not ready for it. I know that. That's not the point. The point is that's what we should be striving for. Bring them on, bring them in. Let's see what we can do. Let's see how it
Where
looks.
would you like the game to be played at?
I'll play it in the Coliseum.
You don't want to go to Tuscaloosa?
No, heck, no, we're not gonna play it in Dallas. We're not gonna play it in whereverville. Let's come to the Coliseum, let them travel, let them get off the bus, and let's just see if we got enough good guys to make that a competitive ball game. I would love to see that. But look, to your point earlier, I'm old school on that stuff. I was, brought up in the play anybody, anywhere, anytime. I don't care. Let's go. And I still, I think that way. I'm not naive. We're not ready to play Alabama, but something to shoot for. Go for it. Go for it.
Totally agree. I'm gonna go with Chris on this one. I'd like to see SC play Michigan, but not in Rome at the Coliseum. It'd be great to see how the NCAA could refurbish the Coliseum in Rome to put people in there, kind of like what they do with the Field of Dreams. That would be a challenge, but I'd like to see SC play in the Big House. That's one place I haven't been. And, everybody always tells me, you see it on TV, it doesn't do it justice in person. It's really like you walk from the very top down and just to see the whole configuration. But my other place I'd like to see SC play for some reason is I'd like to see SC play at Wisconsin. And everybody tells me that playing at Camp Randall Field is like just so much fun. And I did see Wisconsin and UCLA play in the Rose Bowl. And the fans of Wisconsin are great. And I love their fifth quarter with the chicken dance and the whole, their whole tradition. So seeing SC, I like to see SC play games away. So Michigan would be one. And obviously, Wisconsin would be the other. I agree with Kevin. If SC is up to playing in Alabama, I wouldn't mind going to see a game in Tuscaloosa, to be honest with you. But we have to be on the top of our game. I don't want to go see a non-competitive game. And I'll tell you what, as far as playing at Oklahoma, I don't know, would Lincoln Riley get all fired up to go back there and take that abuse? He might need to have about 40 of those state troopers. They'll bring him in one of those, like the Pope Mobile or something while he's there. But it certainly would be a festive atmosphere. No question about it. So it's certainly food for thought, and we may be seeing an extra conference game in the future if they don't go if they go out of division. So speaking of that, what time it is as we get ready to transition to the fourth quarter. We begin, of course, with our favorite segment, according to some of you listeners. You know what I'm doing here. It's time for the symbolic Chris Arledge Coliseum torch in lieu of the traditional USC marching band's rendition of the William Tell Overture. We are going to bring you the musings with Arledge. Now, if I could just fire this baby up. Here we go. It's looking good. So, folks, strap onto your seatbelts. Mr. Arledge is about ready to pontificate. I have no idea what he's going to talk about, but we're going to find out now. So, Chris, give us some musings.
Thanks, Greg. I have a couple thoughts today, and I want to start with my friends, the Oklahoma Sooners fans, because it's been a number of weeks since I talked to them. And guys, I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to neglect you. I've been a little bit busy. And to be honest, I've been trying to give you some space. I know you've been working through some things lately, and so I wanted to let you do that. But I do have an update for you and something of a caution. So Lincoln Riley, you guys remember him. He's the nation's best quarterback coach and developer, and he's now managed to place himself in the best location in the country by far to recruit star quarterbacks. He's likely to have his pick of the best quarterbacks in the country just about every year for the foreseeable future. He's also living in a $17 million mansion with views of the Pacific Ocean in a neighborhood full of movie stars. He can go to the best restaurant in town if he wants. He can get great seats to any event he wants, but he can also live in relative anonymity. He can go to the grocery store. Nobody gawks at him because here he's a relatively minor celebrity. My daughter is a server at a prominent LA restaurant. She called me the other day and told me that she was currently in the process of serving Paul McCartney, Tom Hanks, Woody Harrelson, LeBron James, and Adele in a single night. Now, nobody pays attention to Lincoln Riley in LA. He has all the benefits of wealth and fame. He has a job where he can dominate, and he doesn't have to live in a fishbowl. Now, Oklahoma fans, of course, look at this state of affairs and they ask themselves, what could possibly motivate Lincoln Riley to leave us and go have that? And the conclusion, a unanimous conclusion among Sooner fans, is just bad character. The only explanation is that Lincoln Riley is a really bad person, who, by the way, we're now told is a terrible coach, always has been, and they're better off without him. Well, I have a quick Lincoln update for you, OU fans, and a warning. The other day, Lincoln Riley threw out the first pitch at Dodger Stadium in front of 50,000 fans and a television audience. You know this already because you're still stalking your old flame. So why do I tell you? Well, I tell you because I know that Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams and 55-19 have you guys a little bit sensitive. And you're probably more focused on USC these days than you should be. So I know many of you, when you saw this news about Lincoln Riley throwing out the pitch of the Dodgers game, thought we need to start a campaign to have Brent Venables also throw out the first pitch at a Dodgers game. Not the LA Dodgers, obviously, they're too far away. The Oklahoma City Dodgers. The AAA affiliate for the LA Dodgers is really close to you guys. They average about 6,000 fans per game, but I'm sure the fans are a raucous affair. And you guys know if you complain loudly enough, and let's be honest, we know you can, the Venables can probably throw out a first pitch there also. Tit for tat. You guys get your revenge. And listen, if he does, that's great. Go and support it. Cheer loudly. I just want you to be careful. Because if that happens, I don't want you to think too hard about the irony of the situation. I don't want you to think too hard about the fact that the Oklahoma team that you're there to support exists for one and only one reason: to develop players and coaches so the best ones can leave, go to LA, and play under much brighter lights. If you dwell on that too much, it might hit too close to home and it might make you sad. And I don't want that. Now, my last thought. Nick Saban news. Nick Saban apparently is concerned about parity in college football. This is, we now understand, a great love of his. Yes, parity, the thing that's always mattered to Nick Saban, who wishes every college football team in America could go 6-6 every single season. Listen to what Nick had to say. One of the things I'd like to see us be able to work back to is everything in college football has always had parity. I don't think we have that balance right now, which could affect the parity of college football and college athletics as a whole. Everything in college football has always had parity. Okay, Nick. Well, look, I'm sure Vanderbilt's excited to hear about your new love of parity. I guess this means you'll be sending some of your 5-star recruits their direction, and I'm assuming they're excited about it. If anybody out there in cyberspace can locate a Vanderbilt football fan, ask them, and let's try to confirm that. Look, Nick, college football has never had parity, and you seem to have always been fine with that. You use every advantage at your disposal to win, as you should. Nick Saban's concern isn't parity. It's that the landscape he has dominated is changing, and when you're king, change is bad. Now, I don't really fault him for that. I get it. He wants to stand athwart history yelling stop. If you know the reference, let me know. And if he wants to couch his argument against these changes that threaten his throne, and he wants to say it's about parity, fine, Nick, knock yourself out. I don't have a problem with it. I do fault you for this. Listen to this quote. I think NIL is great for the players. They should have an opportunity to earn money. I'm fine with all that. Really? Nick Saban is all in favor of players making money? See, now I'm confused. Nick Saban has been the most powerful man in college football for the better part of a decade. Nobody is listened to more closely. Nobody has a bigger bully pulpit. And if Nick Saban at any point in the past 10 years has said, I think players should be making money, I haven't heard of it. But I thought, well, maybe I missed it. So I Googled. And you know what? Nope. I still don't see it. In fact, back in 2019, when this NIL issue was first coming to a head, somebody asked Nick Saban what he thought. Did he speak out in favor of players getting paid? No. He refused to offer an opinion and said he's solely focused on his team. You know what? I believe he was solely focused on his team, and I believe he still is. Nick Saban has more money than his grandkids will be able to spend because college football is a hugely successful business. But up until 5 minutes ago, Nick never had any interest at all in sharing that money with any players. He never spoke out about it when he was the biggest, most important person in college football for many, many years. And that's the truth. Nick Saban is fine with players getting paid. Nick Saban really misses parity. Save us the speeches, Nick. You're focused on your team. We know that. We also know you like things just the way they were, and we all know why. Self-interest.
And there you have it. Another Musings with Arledge, which is the perfect segue to go into the fourth quarter. All right. So panel, let's get this out of the way. I think this will be amusing. What is the funniest experience you have ever had a USC football game, home or away? Kevin, you were a player, but I think I know one of your funny experiences, but I'm going to let you talk about it. It might be different than the one I'm thinking about. So give us a funny experience.
Yeah, well, I'll give you an interesting one that for some would be funny. Coming out of the tunnel at Notre Dame, and a Notre Dame fan, I guess, reached, just stooped over the railing and threw up all over my uniform, my shoulder pad area in particular, which I had to endure for the entire first half before we could change that out. And even then, I still smelled like cheap, bourbon, and it was cheap bourbon. All right, so it's kind of like a Notre Dame thing, I guess. So anyway, that was interesting. For some, it was funny. I laugh about it now. I didn't laugh about it then, but it was pretty darn. It was memorable. That's for sure. He did say some things, but it was unintelligible, which is typical for Notre Dame, frankly.
Well, I hate to use this term, but thanks for bringing that up. Mark, let me ask you, my friend, what is you now? You've gone to a lot of SC games, of course, in the stands and stuff. You transitioned to the media. I don't think anyone has. Well, maybe somebody has thrown up on you. I don't know. But what is a memorable, fun thing that you remember, home or away?
So, and forgive me for this, but I think probably watching a Cal fan tumble from the top of section 13 all the way down the stairs, seriously, almost all the way to the bottom, to the front row, because he missed a step and he was a little drunk. That was kind of funny. And he actually stood up and walked back to his seat, so he was okay. But watching it was like I was just waiting for the Benny Hill music to follow along with it. Other than that, not a whole lot. I remember being in Tucson one time and just walking, waiting, just getting to the stands, and I kind of got grappled by a young lady. Tested my tonsils out of the blue. It was kind of cool. But other than that, now it's been, if it's happening, I'm not noticing. I'm pretty focused on what's going on the field. So sorry.
That's all right. I thought maybe you were going to say the guy went back to his seat and then he decided to do it again, which would have been
That would have been fun.
That would have been funny.
That would have been even funnier.
All right, Christopher, what do you remember that strikes your fancy?
You remember that USC UCLA game? I can't remember the year. I had forgotten you were going to ask this question. I didn't look it up. But this was the year it was Pete Carroll against Rick Neuheisel. And with USC up comfortably with the ball.
The timeout game.
Rick Neuheisel decided to call a timeout to stop the clock, at which point Pete decided to run a play action pass and throw about a 50-yard touchdown pass, and the UCLA fans and players absolutely lost it. I loved that. I loved it so much. You want to keep playing, Rick? we'll keep playing. I thought it was beautiful. It was well deserved, and it wins out over the Notre Dame game. USC had beaten Notre Dame by 31 points 2 straight years. The Trojans were up 24 points in the fourth quarter. And Pete Carroll ran. It was a fake punt, right? A fake punt so that he could get one more touchdown on the board and make it 31-point wins 3 straight years. I thought that was hilarious too. And I guess in both cases you're talking about really rubbing it in against your rival in a way that the rival would think is not very sportsmanlike. But I didn't care. I thought it was hilarious.
What was so great about the Pete Carroll timeout call was he wasn't there the next year. He took off to Seattle. So it was the ultimate rub your face in it.
We should refer to him now as Professor Pete Carroll, now that he's got his
Dr. Carroll
doctorate degree from
Dr.
University
Carroll.
Pacific. Yeah, how about that, huh? Pete said he was humbled. I don't think I've ever seen Pete Carroll.
There's no way in the world Pete Carroll is humbled. I'm sorry.
No, it ain't happening, my friend.
give
It's
that-
not
give-
happening with Pete. Sorry.
Nah.
So
Nice
I'm
try.
and you know what? I'm okay with that. Remember, somebody had asked. Somebody mentioned to Winston Churchill that they had met him. I think it was Clement Attlee. It was one of the prime ministers that came after him, and they said, yeah, we met him. He was a very humble man, and Churchill said, yes, with much to be humble about. Pete Carroll doesn't have much to be humble about. It doesn't bother me that much that he was not humbled. He's earned that doctorate.
Well, I will conclude this segment by saying the one that I was, and I've mentioned this a little bit before, so I'm maybe repeating for some people who've watched our shows in the past. I thought the Bush push game afterwards was absolutely, I was just laughing myself to death inside, not because that SC had won. Of course, I was euphoric about that, but getting back on I guess it was the transportation system. They had to take people out to parking lots far away. At the time, I wasn't in the press box. And I have never, ever seen the vile coming out of Notre Dame fans' mouths. I mean, the F word was flying like champagne on New Year's Eve. I mean, all of these holy rollers were losing. You know, they're always, I know that Mark will attest to this, of course, when you go to Notre Dame Stadium, the minute you hit an elevator, they always say, welcome to Notre Dame Stadium. We're happy to have you here. It's kind. I mean, even when they've lost, which was in between, but this loss, that was personal. That was like, okay, this takes it to a whole new level. And I remember just starting to laugh when I sat down in my seat. And of course, there were Notre Dame people on the transportation bus, and they just could not stop talking about it. The thing that amazed me is they couldn't stop talking about how the game was won and the referees gave them more time to do it. Nobody really paid much attention at that moment to the Bush push, but they were saying we got ripped off. This was a rip. It was no talk about we haven't cut the grass in 300 years and all the other stuff that went with that game, but it was, to me, one of the funniest things that I have not laughed out loud at in a long time. So that is my funniest memory. So with that, let's transition into overtime. Panel, we're in overtime. It's time to answer some viewer questions and panel answers in a free-for-all answer format. Those of you that are viewers of this pod or listeners of the podcast or viewers, if you'd like to ask the panel a question, go to wersc.com. Go to either the Gary P or the WeRSC members message board at wersc.com. From there, you'll see the topic thread regarding questions or inside the Trojans Huddle. We've got a couple here, and we're going to end up with a final question that I think is going to be amusing at some level. Question one is from JM641 in the Midwest. He says, last week you guys commented on the various way too early rankings are out there, and I think the consensus was that something in the 10 to 15 range seemed reasonable. However, given that we are the proverbial one play away from this being a Miller Moss-led team, what ranking do you think is appropriate if the Trojans, God forbid, enter the season with him at the helm with CW lost for the season? Okay, jump in, guys. What's it going to be?
They're going to play good football. I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah, they're going to play good football. It may be there's a game difference, on the one loss situation on that. Maybe a bit more. The games are still going to be close. The defense is still going to have to play, which is to me always the biggest question right now. I think Miller Moss has showed that he can quarterback. He can ball. So, yeah, wouldn't break my heart.
Yeah, I didn't see that question, Greg. I apologize for the deer in the headlights stare right there. Miller Moss is going to be surrounded by a lot of talent, and Miller Moss was a highly recruited quarterback coming out of high school. So, if you think back what Coach Riley talked about after spring camp or towards the end of spring camp, he was singing the praises of Miller. I mean, he has grown. He was talking about his confidence. So, you're surrounding him with a lot of talent, a lot of experience. You're giving him a running game. He's got an offensive line that could potentially be one of the best in the country. The question was, where should they be ranked going into the season?
Yeah, if Miller Moss was the
right now, right where they're at.
Yeah,
right where they're at. They like Kevin said, they got to play the game. So the only thing that changes between Caleb and Miller, as far as I'm concerned, Caleb is obviously going to take off and run more frequently than Miller would. So that's the difference in my eyes.
I'm gonna dissent a little bit. The guys are right. Miller Moss is a talented kid. USC still has a lot of good offensive players around him, and Miller Moss would have the benefit of having what is arguably the best quarterbacks coach in the country coaching him. He would play well, but there is a drop off. There's a drop off. Caleb Williams is a proven commodity. Miller Moss is not. And by the way, it makes a huge difference to a defense if you have a quarterback back there who can just tuck the ball and go 80 yards for a touchdown. That's a problem. If the guy can throw too, it's a huge problem, but that's a problem. Miller Moss does not create that same sort of problem. What would they be? I think USC is going to be a top 10 team with Caleb Williams. Without him, there may be another game on the schedule that they would lose, but it wouldn't turn them into a bad team. And by the way, almost everybody suffers when they lose their star quarterback. I mean, that's sometimes you get away with it, but if Alabama lost Bryce Young, they wouldn't be as good. They'd still be great because they're Alabama and they're loaded with talent. And they have a great coach, but they wouldn't be as good. Everybody drops a little bit when they lose their best quarterback. I mean, almost everybody does.
And they pay good. They pay good too.
Yeah, that's part of the parity program, Kevin.
That's right.
Okay, I will say that the difference is the it factor. I think that the leadership skills of Caleb is A+++. I think Miller is still working his way through by nature of his personality. That's not a rip at all. I think if I was to rank them pre-rank without Caleb Williams, I would probably put them at round number 20, number 22. And I'd say, you know what? I would feel comfortable with that because you can always improve on that status by proving it on the field. I mean, I assume if he would start against Rice, they're going to name the score. I think the test would be at Stanford. And that's where you scrambling. I think Chris is absolutely spot on. I think when you have to play against a quarterback that has proven that he's good, that he could run. And we don't know, by the way, who Miller Moss's backup is. So how much is that going to restrict, play calling and all that sort of business. So it's an interesting concept. I think it's a very good question, as a matter of fact. Let's go to question number 2. This is from Dave Zinkoff in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Gentlemen, if you could play for the Trojans under Lincoln Riley, what uniform number would you request and why? So what new number would you like?
13.
13. That'd be great. Now we could have a three-way bat. Offense or defense, Mark?
At this point, it doesn't matter because it would be equal on both sides. I think that would actually be the 5th 13 on the team.
I think this raises all sorts of interesting. I think we should have a fan vote like the All-Star game. Who should get what number? Now, Chris, what was your uniform number when you played college football?
23.
Okay, and what was the significance of 23? Why did you pick 23 at the time?
Because when I transferred to a new high school before my junior year, I was the last guy to pick a number, and it was the only number in the 20s that was still left. And so I just continued to wear it after that. It wasn't special to me when I picked it. It just, I had worn it for a while, and so I stuck with it.
Now, Kevin, you're an interesting one because we can see your number 50 there on the picture behind you. Did you wear 50 at St. Francis in La Cañada when you played?
No, I wore a number 32.
And so how did you get 50?
And sometimes I wore 77 too, by the way, just whatever. Since we had very few players, and you had to play both offense, defense, and I was also the place kicker. But other than that, hey, look, I liked 50 the first time. I'll take 50 the second time.
All right. So we've got now I would probably
Number 5 for you, Greg. Number 5.
Okay. Mr. Smartass has to get it in. I asked myself, am I going to get out of the show without a you-know-who comparison with number 5? No, my number would probably be number 20. I wore that in high school. Actually, I like 32 like Kevin because of Sandy Koufax. That has nothing to do with any other sport really. But also originally when I came into high school, I wore number 21 because I loved Warren Spahn, who used to pitch for the Milwaukee Braves. So that kind of was a young number. But, in the end, the number thing is personal for a lot of players. I think for me, it was personal. It's a comfort zone that you feel when you have a particular number that you've worn in the past. So it'll be interesting to see the numbers and how the situation goes for Caleb Williams and Michael.
I've got some extra jerseys that are number 50, just saying. So
okay, are you in the senior citizens NIL program for USC or what? Nostalgia uniforms by Kevin Bruce. You can wear his number 50. Do they get your name on the back? That's what I want to know.
No, hell no. It's not authentic. All my stuff's authentic. So anybody want to start writing me some NIL checks, I'm good on that.
Well, Chris is a copyright guy, aren't you? Is your lawyer expertise copyrights?
I've done a lot of copyrights.
Well, there you go, Kevin. You got yourself a lawyer for your business.
I'd call Chris in a heartbeat if I had a lawsuit. Trust me.
All right, now this is the third question out of 4. I think this is absolutely appropriate. This is from I don't even know if this is a real name. Anyway, it's from Art Achoke in Norman, Oklahoma.
I'm thinking no on the name, Greg. I'm thinking probably not real.
I'm glad you unpeeled that for us. Here's the question. I know this is a USC program, but who is your favorite Oklahoma Sooner player of all time?
Oh, that's easy.
I know who you're going to say. I won't say it. Go ahead, Kevin.
Joe Washington, man.
I knew you were going to say, and it's all about that punt return, isn't it?
Well, it was
73, right?
It was every bit of that, but it was, just the way he was hard to tackle, hard to catch, and he was the real deal. And then look, they've had a lot of good players. I just put that out there. J.C. Watts was kind of a cool guy. I liked him. But Dupree was, not half bad. He could run the football. And look, it goes on and on and on. But Joe Washington was just in a class by himself.
Yeah, and I will say this to our viewers: if you can go on YouTube and watch, bring up the 73 USC Oklahoma game and watch Joe Washington on a punt return, it is unbelievable. I mean, I was there in the Coliseum to see it. It was unbelievable. It was like trying to catch a mosquito. It was unreal. Chris, I know that since it's appropriate, since you have been attacking Oklahoma today.
That's not what I did.
He was just calling it the way it is.
See, there you go.
Okay, listen, I don't
friend Kevin to defend you on that one.
This is going to.
Let's get to the point. Who is your favorite Oklahoma football player of all time?
Okay, this is going to surprise you. I don't have a favorite Oklahoma football player.
Oh no,
I've never liked any of them. I've never liked him. But here's what I'll say. I think the most iconic is Brian Boswell. I don't think anybody was larger than life the way Brian Bosworth was as a college football player.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah. He was an extraordinary player, but also with the personality, the showmanship, and the antics. I mean, it's hard to top the boss.
With the steroids, it was really kind of a cool deal.
the half shirt, the neck roll, the pink mohawk. I mean, the guy was just, he was comfortable in his skin.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you who it was. The best one in Oklahoma was Billy Sims. Billy Sims was absolutely fantastic. Marcus Dupree was a big back out of Meridian, Mississippi. He was tough. He was big. Billy Sims was like watching a guy dislocate his legs and chew up yardage so fast. It was almost like two jelly legs, the way he was able to move and avoid tackling. It was he was incredible. The other one, you talk about crazy for Oklahoma, you have to bring in Joe Don Looney.
Yeah.
Joe Don Looney was really a whack case, but a great football player. But the how should we say it? Both oars didn't go into the water.
Yeah, he got hit in the head a couple times. Yeah.
He definitely got hit in the head a couple of times. So thank you for your input on that, guys. And our final question, and we took a little flack last week, of course. Let me set the stage here. The question about pay for speaking, it was a question from Trojan fan in Alabama or in Bama. Mark was able to give a strong case for his perspective, but somehow Chris's computer went on the blink. He didn't get a chance. So let me just reframe the question here, Chris, for your response. Last week, Trojan fan in Alabama asked this question: is it true that Mark pays his way onto the show so he gets to talk with Chris every week? Unfortunately, as we said, Chris had a computer malfunction, was unable to respond to the question, which Mark did answer. In the interest of fair play, Chris, here is your opportunity to respond to the question: is it true that Mark pays his way onto the show so he gets to talk to you every week?
Of course it's true. And in fact, I got the computer program solved with some of that Culkin money. So it's a good thing. That is true. And we all appreciate it. And in fact, it's led us to an idea. I actually have a major announcement to make now. The We Are SC Collective, which is going to raise large sums of money to give to USC football players under NIL deals. What we're going to do now is all of you, everybody out there, even the Oklahoma fans, if you want, you can bid for the opportunity to appear on this show and get the chance to talk to me. And then we're going to take that money and we're going to use it to recruit football players, including especially guys who aren't yet enrolled. We're going to use it to entice them to come here, contrary to that fake NCAA rule. So please do participate. Let's see what kind of money we can raise.
All right. Well, I think that was a fair response. In all fairness, Mark, is there anything you'd like to add before we say goodbye?
Yeah, to preface the whole thing here,
Please.
Trojan fan in Bama is a friend of mine in a text
Well, that's
chat.
shocking. Who would have guessed that?
And he bothers me with some of the most ridiculous questions that I mostly ignore. So this is his way of, I guess, poking the bear, so to speak.
Well, thank goodness we got that straight. Chris, it looks happier for Kevin. He's happier for. I'm happy.
There's the checks in the mail. You'll
Well, let's all sit. Let's hold hands.
eat well in Bakersfield.
Oh, God, that would be a.
So who the hell's poking the bear? Who's the
What is
bear
that all
here?
about? Poking the bear? What are you into animal rights problems? I mean, what is the deal on that one, Culkin?
What? Where are we done?
Yes, we are done.
This
We
question
are.
was done last week. Why we even revisited it, I don't know. So
All right. Well, you know what? This is a beautiful way to say that's a wrap for this edition of Inside the Trojans Huddle. A big thank you to this week's panel of the great Marc Kulkin, great Chris Arledge, and the great Kevin Bruce. And a special thank you to all of you for watching or listening or laughing to Inside the Trojans Huddle. Till next Tuesday, this is your host, Greg Katz, reminding you all to fight on, everybody.